Hey everyone, welcome back to Spilling the Tea on Real Estate, or Spilling the Realty, actually. I'm Michelle with Star One Realty Group.
And I'm Logan. Today we're diving into what really went down in Pasco County's housing market from 2020 through mid-2025. Prices went crazy, investors flooded in, and both buyers and sellers are trying to figure out what's fair.
And we're breaking it all down. How prices rose, what role investors played, and what it means for today's market. And before we get started, Logan, I just wanted to tell you where this came from. So I was reading on one of these real estate sites that we get every day for information, and it was kind of downplaying, saying like investors didn't have anything to do with the prices and everything, which, you know, to me that was like total crap. And I'm like, no way. We're going to look into this because they're only talking about last year. They're not talking about the insanity that went on, you know, about the pandemic. Let's rewind to 2020. The pandemic hits, interest rates drop, and suddenly everyone wants more space. Why? Because they think they're going to be locked in their house. Also, the interest rates drop because that's how our country makes money. They make our money from the interest that we pay on our mortgages. And so when everybody's locked down and they're not buying a house, guess what? They're not making any money. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So inventory collapses, meaning that nobody's putting their house on the market. And so buyers were competing fiercely.
Yeah, and investors started buying aggressively too. Cash offers were everywhere. In Pasco, prices jumped about 22% in 2021.
And this is when the bidding wars were coming. And, you know, even still today, people go, oh, there'll be a bidding war. Oh, no. Those days are over.
Not anymore.
Yeah. And they were intense. Buyers were waiving inspections. Can you imagine doing a home inspection on a house that was built in the 70s? Maybe they never did anything.
Yep.
No home inspection. And they were offering over asking price. And everyone wanted a piece of the action. But let me give you a little caveat there. So between now and 2020, the houses, actually July of 2022 and 2020, every house went up like $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So over an 18-month period, the houses that are now $250 were really less. They were about $150. But the ones that were selling that inched up, just so everyone knows, those houses had new roofs, new air conditioning, updated kitchens, and everything, because the flippers bought them for next to nothing.
Exactly.
Then they flipped it, and they got those prices up where they are today. So that's really what was happening.
Well, then there comes 2022. Prices absolutely exploded. I know you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Home values in Pasco went up almost 29% in the single year. And it was nuts. I remember that. Like, everyone was raising their prices, and it was selling. That was the crazy part.
Right, and like sometimes you would have these bidding wars. We'd get 12 contracts in, and we would actually say, okay, we put our houses on the market on Thursday. We still do that today because it still is the best day for putting a listing on.
Yep.
And we would say, okay, we'll be taking offers. The seller will be making a decision on Sunday. So that's what we would do. And then here's the nuance. The top prices weren't for every home. They were for the houses that were turnkey. Like I said, new roof, new air conditioner, updated kitchen, and all that. But still, the people who didn't have all that stuff, they were making such a good deal still because they maybe owed nothing on it.
Exactly.
And in July of 2014, their houses were really down around the 70s. And 70,000, 75,000. So them even getting 100 or more was still an absolute, wonderful thing for them. But like I said, all that inched it up to where we are. Okay. And investors were also a big part of the story. They weren't just playing, they were driving it. They were paying way below market with cash. And everybody always thinks, oh, it's cash. Like even today I'll go, but it's cash. Well, guess what? At the closing table, whether it's cash or finance, money is money. It's still spending the same. You know, like I have a lot of agents go, oh, they're paying cash. Okay, well, that doesn't mean much at the end of the day. The only thing a cash deal does is you don't have to go through the appraisal process.
Exactly.
But the thing is like during that whole period, that 18 months, I was fighting appraisals like every day. Every day I was fighting appraisal to get it up because you'd have the next one and then the next one getting screamed out by appraisers and that kind of thing. So, I mean, cash when you're in that bidding war period of time, then of course cash is king and it's just bringing it up. But, you know, but in a normal market, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you still get a check.
I don't know if you remember, but in July of 2022, July alone, we sold 19 homes. That was a great month. I remember
really
that. That was a good
baby.
I mean, we were working like crazy, but it's so nice that we made 19 people sell their home and 19 people got to buy a home also. So we helped that. How many sides is that? 38 sides of people. So much happier.
Yeah.
And I would say though, like, the problem though with the good that month was, then there came the bad. It's like, you know, if you have a faucet on your house, you just turn it off. That is literally what happened to the market. All those deals slowed down. The buyers started to fade, and that brings us pretty much to today now, right?
Yeah. So let's make this real clear. Imagine a house that sold for $250 in July of 2022. So that buyer was paying $1,089 to about $1,194 a month in 2022 for their principal and their interest. Today, the $1,000, and that's at the lower interest rate.
Yeah.
Now let's just do it the 7% interest rate. The house today for that same monthly payment is going to be somewhere $177,000. So I think that the sellers aren't really seeing right now that interest rate puts it where the buyers, they can't buy the house. So they got to start, you know, they got to come down.
Exactly.
So if you missed the window, unfortunately, you missed that 2022 window when that window started coming down. And, you know, people are still getting the $250, but they have everything done. You know,
exactly.
like if you need windows, you're talking $10,000 or more to have your hurricane windows. An updated kitchen, $10,000. The roof on the 1400 is about $14,000, and your air conditioning is about $12,000. So right there's your extra. That's your extra money that is coming in. And so, you know, when the people want to sell their house and they, you know, they want to get that $250, we're talking about that 222 home, because that's prevalent around here, about 1,400 square
That's
feet.
the standard. That is the home around here.
You could have 3 bedrooms, it's like 1,500, but still, the thing is it's the monthly. Now you tag on your, well, they're the people who sold them the house were probably paying taxes on maybe $80,000. Now they got to pay taxes on the $250, and then of course, thanks to Helene and Milton, we now have our lovely insurance. So, I mean, where we are, you know, is at the 6%, 7%. It's about $2,000 a month, and still, buyers might be thinking, oh man, but here's the thing. Buyers, don't be scared by what those interest rates are. It's all in how you do it. How much money you put down. If you put down enough, you might not have to have PMI insurance, which then your rate's down. You can shop your interest rate. And I'll tell you what, I got an offer in the other day and I saw somebody, they must have had stellar credit. They were at 5. So
That's
I
crazy.
talked to Ron and he said the interest rates are coming down too. So, you know, there is hope there.
Well, now this brings us to about the cooling period of the market, I would say. From 2023 to 2024, when those rates spiked, the market cooled heavily. And we started seeing investors' activity slow. And I think it was by 2023, only about 8% of homes in PASCO were investor-owned. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy because what they did was, and this is my opinion, this is what I saw, is the investors came in, scooped up all the properties, and then they fixed them all up and they flipped them, because there's a couple kind of flippers. Then, or you have some of your other investors who bought it, fixed it up, maybe not as nice as if it was going to be their own house, but then they rented it, and they rented it for 22. So they were leveraging their money. And so what's been happening, like in the last year, is they're starting to sell those properties off because they're starting to adjust and shake out, but they're not going down a lot, but still. So they won on buying it. They won on, well, the materials and everything were cheaper, on fixing it up. They won having somebody paying these crazy rent prices, and now they're going to win again. So, your investors are savvy, but they're changing too.
Well, I mean, homes that are updated, ready to move in, and priced correctly, they are still selling. It's the ones that are overpriced or outdated homes. Those are really the only ones that are lingering around on the market.
Right, and like when you walk in, and those kind of things.
And that's the thing. I think you as a seller have to be honest with yourself too.
You do.
Like, you can't look at what your neighbor has all the time. You got to look at maybe they had all updates and you didn't. And if you're honest with yourself, we'll price it correctly and you will sell the house. You won't have to sit around and play the whole game.
Right. And that's the thing, is like they don't know what the others have. So for instance, one time I was fighting an appraisal on a house, and the comp went for $10,000 more. It was like apple to apple. So I call up the appraiser. I'm like, because it was the other one, I need to find out. And they said, well, that house had a full house generator. That was worth $10,000.
Yep.
That's where the extra money was in the 10. Also, we have our solar panels now, and solar panels that are paid off, they have a value. But if you have solar panels and the solar people said you can transfer it, well, guess what? That buyer now has to qualify for the transfer of that loan.
Oh, exactly.
So, a lot of times what is happening is you'll see maybe, Joe sold his house for X less. Well, guess what? The solar panels were $40,000, which that buyer had to qualify for that. So there's all these different kind of nuances that come into deals. So, you need to not really be looking at what your neighbor got or your cousin got, because you don't know what the deal was. Especially if you think they didn't make enough, well, most likely there's a reason. Or if they made X amount and yours isn't going for that, there's probably a reason there too. Because like I said, the appraisers come in and everything's worth something. All right, so Log, let's not forget here, we are also going to be offering classes at the office for our sellers and our buyers. We're going to do like a workshop. So if you want to give us a call, text me, and we're going to start setting up some classes so that way people can, be educated on what they need to do.
And thanks for listening. Follow us, share this episode, and send in your questions for the next one. We would love to answer any questions you guys might have.
Right.
Have a great day now.